Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons, and love are told. Sit back, relax, and if you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss another tale. It had been one of those days where I just wanted to sit down somewhere quiet with Clara, share a drink, and let the noise of the world fade into the background. We'd chosen Murphy's Tavern, a small North Carolina spot that smelled faintly of oak, whiskey, and fried food. I loved the place because it wasn't flashy. It was the kind of bar where the old jukebox in the corner crooned out classics, and the bartender knew your name without asking. Clara sat across from me in the booth, her soft laugh blending with the hum of conversation around us. At 54, I was no longer the young Marine who could run 10 miles without breaking a sweat, but when she looked at me with that sparkle in her eyes, I felt like the strongest man alive. We'd been married for 16 years. And though time had lined my face and streaked my hair with silver, she still had the kind of beauty that drew eyes wherever she went. That night, she wore a simple green dress that clung gently to her figure, and I could tell even before it happened that someone in the bar would take notice. I just didn't expect it to be the trio of loud college boys who stumbled in halfway through our meal, their voices already carrying the edge of cheap beer and ego. At first I ignored them. They were laughing about some fraternity prank, their laughter sharp and careless. But when one of them, tall and broad-shouldered with a baseball cap turned backward, leaned against our booth and smirked at Clara, I knew trouble was coming. "Damn," he said loud enough for everyone near us to hear. "What's a woman like you doing with an old man like this?" His eyes flicked over me dismissively, like I wasn't even there. Clara stiffened beside me. She didn't like scenes and neither did I. But I'd learned in the Marines that ignoring disrespect doesn't always make it go away. It often invites more. The second boy, leaner with a sharp jawline, chimed in with a laugh. "Yeah, seriously. You could be with someone who can actually keep up with you. How do you even survive nights with Grandpa here?" Their laughter burst out, crude and cruel, echoing across the tavern. The bartender glanced over but didn't step in. Folks in places like Murphy's often let people work things out themselves. I kept my composure, sipping my drink, meeting their eyes with the steady calm that had unnerved recruits in my training days. Clara spoke before I could. Her voice was firm but polite. "I'm with him because he's my husband and I love him. That's all you need to know." That answer should have been enough, but for drunk college boys brimming with bravado, it only poured fuel on their fire. The third one, smaller but meaner in the eyes, leaned close enough that I could smell the sour tang of beer on his breath. "Lady, blink twice if you're being held hostage. We can save you." Their laughter exploded again, and a ripple of unease ran through the bar. A few patrons shifted in their seats, clearly waiting to see what I would do. I'd been in far uglier situations than this, from dusty combat fields to raw training grounds, but what stung wasn't their words, it was the way they tried to strip me of dignity in front of Clara. I set my glass down slowly, the sound of it clicking against the wood table cutting through their noise. "You boys had better walk away," I said, my voice low and steady. Not raised, not angry, just firm. The kind of tone that brooked no argument. For a moment, silence settled between us. The first boy, the one in the cap, narrowed his eyes. I could see the calculation in his face, the tug of pride against common sense. But pride won. "Or what, old man? You're gonna put us in timeout?" That drew more laughter from his buddies, and someone from another table muttered, "Leave him be," but they ignored it. The second boy slapped the edge of our booth with his palm. "Come on, let's step outside. Show us what you've got. Unless you're scared." Clara reached for my hand under the table, her fingers trembling slightly. I squeezed back, steady, reassuring. I wasn't angry, not yet, but I knew how men like this thought. If I stood down, they'd grow bolder, maybe put their hands on her, maybe worse. If I fought, I'd risk turning the tavern into a brawl. So I stood, slow and deliberate, letting my full height and calm presence do the talking. I wasn't as young as I used to be, but discipline carries its own weight, and I could see their confidence waver for just a breath. "All right," I said, pushing the booth aside. "Outside." The tavern went quiet, save for the jukebox crooning a Johnny Cash ballad in the corner. People leaned in, whispers buzzing as the three college boys swaggered toward the door, throwing cocky grins at one another. Clara's hand clung to my arm for a moment. "Please don't," she whispered, fear etched across her face. I kissed her forehead gently. "Trust me," I said. And then I followed them into the night air. Outside, the parking lot stretched wide under the yellow glow of street lamps. Cars lined the cracked asphalt, and a humid breeze rolled through the summer night. The boys spread out in front of me, the one in the cap cracking his knuckles theatrically. A small crowd filtered out behind us, phones already in hand, ready to record whatever came next. That was when I realized they thought they were walking into a fight. But I knew better. I hadn't taught Marines for years just to forget every lesson. I didn't need to swing a fist to handle these boys. All I needed was patience, technique, and their own arrogance. The parking lot buzzed with that strange electricity that hangs over a crowd waiting for trouble. The night air felt thick, humid against my skin, and I could almost hear the college boys' hearts thumping with adrenaline as they puffed themselves up like peacocks. The one in the cap stepped forward first, grinning as though this was a game. I could see the glow of phone cameras capturing every move, and a part of me knew that whatever happened here would live longer than just this moment. That was fine. Sometimes lessons are better when the whole world witnesses them. "You sure you want to embarrass yourself in front of your wife?" The cap-wearing one sneered. His buddies chuckled behind him, egging him on. I didn't answer. I'd learned long ago that silence is more unnerving than words. Instead, I squared my shoulders, planted my feet, and let the calm I had carried through firefights settle into me again. A true fighter doesn't rush. A true fighter waits. The cap boy lunged at me first, swinging his arm wide in an amateurish punch meant more for show than damage. I pivoted slightly, catching his wrist and guiding his momentum past me. His own weight did the rest. With one sharp redirect he stumbled forward, lost his balance and smacked hard against the brick wall of the tavern. His breath whooshed out in a grunt and the crowd gasped. The second boy, the lean one with the sharp jaw, cursed and charged in with more anger than sense. He came low, probably trying to tackle me around the waist. I sidestepped, grabbed the back of his shirt, and with a twist of my hips, redirected his sprint straight into the open dumpster by the alley. The sound of him landing in a pile of beer cartons and trash bags set off laughter from the onlookers, some clapping, some jeering. His head popped up, red-faced and furious, while the smell of sour garbage clung to him like punishment. I stayed centered, steady, breathing slow. Years of drills came back naturally. The stance, the awareness of my surroundings, the sense of every possible angle. I wasn't looking to destroy them. I was teaching them in the only language they understood. Humiliation without violence. The third one, the smallest but nastiest, seemed to realize things weren't going his way. His eyes darted between his buddies, one groaning against the wall, the other clawing out of the dumpster. Desperation overtook him. With a wild yell, he ran forward and threw a sucker punch aimed at my jaw. This time I didn't even touch him. I shifted, ducking just enough, and his fist connected full force with the iron parking meter beside me. The crack of bone breaking echoed through the lot, followed instantly by his high-pitched scream. He clutched his hand, hopping in agony, while the crowd winced at the sound. For a heartbeat, the night froze. 3 boys, 3 lessons. One writhing against the wall, another buried in trash, the last howling over a shattered hand, and me standing untouched, not a punch thrown, not a drop of sweat wasted. The crowd erupted. Cheers, laughter, a few whistles. Some shook their heads in disbelief, others shouted, "That's what you get." Phones lit up, capturing every angle, and I knew that by morning the whole town, maybe even more, would see exactly what had happened. I glanced toward the tavern. Clara stood just outside the doorway, her hands clasped against her chest, her eyes wide. I gave her a small nod, the kind of look that said, "It's done. You're safe." She exhaled, relief softening her expression. The cap-wearer pushed himself upright, his bravado stripped away. He didn't look so cocky anymore, more like a boy caught playing at being a man. His buddy crawled out of the dumpster, covered in stains and banana peels, his anger paling under the weight of humiliation. And the third. Well, his cries carried loud enough to cut through any thoughts of redemption. He'd feel that mistake every time he tried to grip a baseball bat or shake a hand. I didn't taunt them, didn't boast. I just straightened my jacket and said in the same calm voice I'd used inside, "Go home, boys. Tonight could have gone a lot worse. They didn't argue. Not anymore. The cat boy muttered something under his breath, but it wasn't defiance, it was shame. They gathered themselves clumsily and retreated toward their car, stumbling under the weight of a lesson I hadn't needed fists to deliver. As they left, the crowd closed around me, clapping shoulders, offering words. That was incredible. Didn't even touch him. Man, that's how you handle punks. The bartender chuckled from the doorway, shaking his head. Even strangers who'd never met me before looked at me with respect, the kind that's earned in the space between restraint and power. Clara slipped her hand into mine, squeezing tightly. You scared me half to death, she whispered, though there was pride in her voice too. I told you to trust me, I said gently. We walked back inside together, leaving the three boys to lick their wounds and the crowd to spread the story like wildfire. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of something that would ripple far beyond Murphy's Tavern. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Clara laughing in the kitchen. Her laugh was bright but edged with disbelief, the kind of laugh you give when the world throws something outrageous in your lap. I walked in to find her sitting at the table, coffee mug in one hand, phone in the other. She turned the screen toward me, and there it was, my face frozen mid-turn. The Catboy colliding into the wall behind me, captured in crystal clarity. Someone had posted the entire parking lot showdown online, and by the looks of it, it had already racked up thousands of views overnight. The title read, Old Guy Schools 3 College Brothers Without Throwing a Punch. I blinked, stunned. I wasn't a man who chased fame, and the idea of people sharing my name across social media was foreign. But Clara's eyes sparkled as she scrolled through the comments. Look at this, she said. That's how a real man carries himself. Marine energy right there. These kids got humbled for life. By lunchtime, local news stations were calling Murphy's Tavern, asking about the incident. By evening, the video had crossed state lines, reaching millions. And by the end of the week, people I hadn't spoken to in decades were messaging me on Facebook, sending screenshots, calling me a legend. But while the video made me laugh, it carried heavier consequences for the three boys. The university launched an investigation almost immediately with too many witnesses, too much public embarrassment for them to brush it under the rug. Their fraternity suspended them, stripped them of privileges, and by the following month, disciplinary hearings had begun. Clara and I didn't attend, but word traveled fast in a town like ours. One had been the pitcher for the college baseball team, the smallest one, the one who had shattered his hand against the parking meter. His dreams ended in a single moment of arrogance. The injury was bad, worse than anyone thought. Pins, screws, surgeries. He'd never grip a ball the same way again. Another, the lean one who'd landed in the dumpster, dropped out of school entirely. Too much humiliation, too many jokes, his name etched in shame across campus. The third, the cat boy, managed to stay, but only barely. He transferred the following semester, leaving behind whispers and laughter that followed him wherever he went. Clara told me all this one night as we sat on the porch, the crickets chirping in the summer dark. They thought they could tear you down, she said softly. But they tore themselves apart instead. I nodded, not out of glee, but with that quiet recognition that life has its own way of teaching lessons. I hadn't gone looking for revenge. I hadn't needed fists, rage, or chaos. All I'd needed was discipline, control, and patience. The rest had taken care of itself. 6 months later, Clara and I walked back into Murphy's Tavern. The familiar smell of oak and whiskey welcomed us, but this time, the atmosphere shifted as soon as people saw us. Smiles lit up faces. Patrons nodded, raised glasses in our direction. The bartender grinned and pointed to the corner booth. That's yours now, he said. We call it the Emerson table. I chuckled, but Clara's hand in mine squeezed with pride. We sat down, the same place where the insults had started, but now it was a place of honor. The jukebox played, conversations hummed, and yet everywhere we turned, people treated us like old friends. Over a plate of wings and 2 glasses of beer, Clara leaned in close and whispered the latest gossip about the boys. One's gone, she said. Transferred to some small college out west. Another, I heard he's working construction now, but never finished his degree. And the third one who broke his hand, his baseball career's over. He's back in his hometown, still nursing that hand. I listened quietly, not gloating, not celebrating, just reflecting. Sometimes the sharpest revenge isn't the kind you plan. Sometimes it's the kind that unfolds naturally, when arrogance crashes head-on with reality. As I looked around Murphy's at the faces filled with respect, I realized something. True strength isn't about fists or youth or the swagger of pride. It's about control, about knowing when to fight, when to hold back, and how to win without tearing yourself apart in the process. That night, as Clara and I left the tavern, a younger man passing by stopped me. He hesitated, then said, "Sir, I saw the video months ago. You taught me something. My dad always said real men don't need to prove themselves, and you showed me what that meant." I smiled, shook his hand gently, and walked Clara to the car. The night air was warm, but I felt a deeper warmth in my chest. Not because I'd gone viral, not because people called me a hero, but because I knew I had lived that night in a way that Clara could be proud of, in a way that left a lesson behind. And that's what stayed with me, not the fight, not the humiliation, but the reminder that every action ripples, every choice leaves a mark. What we do in moments of pressure can either scar or inspire, and sometimes without meaning to, you become a lesson someone else carries forever.
Moral lesson.
Life has a way of testing us in unexpected places, sometimes in a battlefield, sometimes in a quiet tavern. That night taught me, and maybe even those 3 boys, that arrogance has consequences and real strength is never loud. You don't need fists to prove worth, and you don't need to crush others to be respected. Sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is restraint, the calm ability to let someone's own mistakes undo them. To anyone listening, remember that life watches how you carry yourself. People will test you, mock you, even try to strip you of dignity. But respect isn't something you demand, it's something you embody. True power lies in self-control, in discipline, in the quiet confidence that no insult can shake. And when you walk in that strength, you not only protect yourself, but you leave behind a lesson for everyone watching. So, as you go forward, carry this story with you. Strength is not about intimidation, but about wisdom. It's not about what you destroy, but about what you preserve. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And please drop a comment below telling us what lesson you're taking away from this story.